Organisation now, or United Nations, or George Soros, Bill Gates. These people cancel you now. They cancel Conservatives, anybody with our views, and that's where we are in the world.
Yeah, the censorship is amazing. It has been really amazing to witness that, and but things like Facebook and all this tech, that's big tech that's coming out of DARPA, and it's Mark Zuckerberg, he might be the front man for it, but it was always a data kind of collection tool for the FBI and whoever else wants access to all our details. And there is a mass exodus now from Facebook to other kind of platforms, MeWe, and but I've seen it on Twitter as well. I haven't been on Twitter for very long, but people just block. It's been so interesting, like dealing with the left. Like you put a counter argument up, but they don't actually even want to have a rational conversation about it.
They just block you all. They start calling you racist.
Yeah,
first.
they call you a racist first, or a sexist, or whatever, and then if you carry on a logical argument, like for example with about Black Lives Matter, just saying all lives matter, that gets called a racist, and then you quote like. Was it Martin Luther King who said you need to judge a man by the content of his character and not the colour of his skin?
Absolutely.
And then,
out the window, isn't it?
and then they come back and they say, well, no, actually, if you don't judge a person by the colour of their skin, then you're a racist because they are the colour of their skin. And then they just block. So it doesn't matter with the left if you put forward a logical argument. You can't win. And then they just shut you down and walk away. So it's very, we've really crossed over into madness, really. That's how I see it now. And anyone with a logical, conservative, even just common sense kind of, common sense is evil now. And so
died at the altar of political correctness.
That's right. And so you've got Black Lives Matter. I just want to bring it back to that, because Black Lives Matter has, like you say, is destroying America, the democratic states, and that's all funded by George Soros and that team. So I mean, anyone that thinks kind of Black Lives Matter is an innocent protest movement, it's just become pure destruction and evil in America.
Well, they're communists. The Black Lives Matter movements are communists, and they are paid indirectly by George Soros. I'm surprised George Soros has never been arrested. Someone said he lived in New York. I don't know where he lives, but it just makes you wonder, because he's got so much power. Being a multi-billionaire, that he's almost untouchable. And he's causing or paying for the destruction of the United States to try and bring down Donald Trump's presidency. And this Black Lives Matter. Look, last week these protests, and they weren't riots, they were protests in Melbourne, where these police went really heavy-handed. Harvey Yemeni was taken to the ground, and you can see quite clearly he was doing nothing, and he was just taken out. And they were just taking and chasing people and smashing them, and they were wearing all the riot gear, the police. But only weeks before, they had the Black Lives Matter march through Melbourne under the COVID crisis, same rules, and the police there went down on one knee. They went down on their knees before Black Lives Matter. It's just bizarre. And not only in Melbourne, but right across the Western world. And even here in Auckland, just a few weeks back, they had the Black Lives Matter protests, and no one seemed to bother them. I don't think the police went down on one knee here, but they did in Melbourne, and they did in the UK. In London and that. You think, what on earth is going on? It just defies belief.
Yeah, and the other one that dare I mention it, is the feminist agenda that's going on, and the way that the socialists use women to further their agenda. So you've got them divided, they just divide and divide and divide. So they divide us into skin colour, they divide us into gender. I mean, and they've even got, the war between the old and the young. So it's like they just want to keep everybody at war, and they want women to no longer have loyalty to their husbands, but to have loyalty to the state. And so you've got the nanny state becoming the provider for women, and they've kind of made, obviously, marriage not as valuable as it was once, and that being a single mum, it's no problem, the government will help you. And I mean, it's good to have a bit of support for people in situations like that, but it's gone that far that people don't actually value long-term committed family relationships anymore. So that you've got men kind of being sidelined, and women not valuing what men bring to the table.
I think the yeah, single mums and the welfare state, and keeping especially women with children dependent on the welfare state. That's been going on for decades and decades, and that's all about creating dysfunctional families and splitting the nuclear family up, you know, mum, dad, kids, splitting them up and keeping people dependent on the welfare state. And the more welfare state they get, the more they will vote for it. And there's no real you know, it doesn't. There's no impetus to go out and get a job and do better for yourself when the state is providing for you. If the more kids you have by different dads, say, the more money you get from the state, and the more money you get from the state for doing nothing, well, the more you're going to vote for that welfare state. And it's like I've said in previous videos, in the United States, the same kind of thing, same logic. The Democrats want to flood the United States with mass migration, where Trump says build a wall. And it's the same with every Western nation. And they want to flood Western nations with mass migration from the third world, and put them all on, not all on benefits, but the vast majority of them will be on benefits, and they will vote for people that give them things. And that will be Labour in New Zealand, in the UK, socialists in France, and it'll be the Democrats in the United States, and they will vote for the parties that give them things for free. Pardon me. But it's like white South Africans in New Zealand. They don't want white South Africans, you know, farmers, to come to New Zealand, because the odds are they're going to vote for a Conservative Party. Because, you know, all the South Africans I know in New Zealand, they all work and they're Conservatives. And they will never, ever, in a million years, vote for Labour. So why would Labour want to bring them into New Zealand? And, you know, they want to bring third worlders in, because third worlders will vote for Labour. They will vote for free things.
Yeah, and that's, you know, you're bringing up the universal base income that they're planning to bring in, and then you couple that with things like vaccinations. So then they'll say, well, vaccines aren't mandatory, but if you want to carry on with your universal basic income, then you're going to have a vaccine. Or if you want to send your child to school, you're going to have to get your child vaccinated. Or, you know, they'll put all these kind of sticks in place that if you don't follow their rules, you won't get the lollies. And I mean, that's not even to mention how much debt they're putting us in to kind of.
They don't care.
Yeah, and so you've got the real problem here now is that they're destroying the economy, aren't they, with all this COVID and the debt that they've, you know, to give people the money. Yeah. It's just, that's where I think it's going to have to get to such a point where average New Zealanders are just hit in the pocket with the loss of small business or incomes, but hopefully they won't continue to buy the narrative once they roll out this universal base income.
Well, honestly, we've moved into insanity. I think, who in their right mind now in New Zealand and right across the Western world, say yourself, you wanted to start a business, you've just done a university degree in business studies, you want to start a business, and you're going to set yourself up for life, and you're going to employ maybe 100 people. Would you bother starting that business now? Because Jacinda and other world leaders have decided this is the new normal. As soon as we find a couple of COVID cases, we're going to shut down major cities, we're going to shut down the country, and you're going to lose, well, you're going to lose your business. You're going to lose your livelihood. You're going to put people out of work. It's going to cause massive stress. So why would you even bother? The more people they put out of work, the more lives they destroy, the more people will become dependent on the welfare state again. And then they will become, I don't know, conditioned to accept the welfare state and get money for nothing. But the ones that work, the ones that actually work, are going to pay such high taxes to cover all this, because it's basic in economics. You know, I'm not a mathematician, but the more people you got out of work, the more taxes you have to pay to cover it. And it's just madness, absolute madness. And it's not only here in New Zealand, but right across the Western world.
So what are we realistically looking at? Like a depression greater than, you know, the 1930s?
I hate to say it, but yeah, I think so. I think it's on the cards now, and I think it'll probably start after the elections in next month here in New Zealand, and possibly after November in the United States. And again, if it affects us as bad as we think, and some economists believe it's going to be, and the United States goes, well, pear-shaped, tits up, which is going to affect the Western world, I think China will rise out of the ashes, and that's going to be real danger for us, danger for Australia, danger for the world. I mean, I think it was just a few weeks ago where the Chinese Navy is now bigger than the United States Navy, more powerful, and that's a scary, scary thing. Some people would say, well, good, the United States this, United States that, but if it wasn't for the United States 75 years ago, we would have been speaking Japanese. We might not even, Japanese is good today, but 75 years ago it wasn't. And the United States keeps us driving around in our cars. The United States has drove us up here today with the cost of petrol. It's the United States that keep those trading waters open with their ships in the Persian Gulf. It's the United States that does that. In the Red Sea, in the Mediterranean, in the Straits of Malaga, wherever it is, in Indonesia and Singapore. It's the United States that does that. It's not China. It's the United States. If we lose the United States, which we could do if Trump loses the election and Harris will manage the decline of the United States. They will manage the decline of the United States, and that will be bad for the world, because then that will be the rise of China, and that will be a big problem for all of us.
Yeah, and I suppose that's what I'm hoping. That I hope that that Trump gets back in, and that we then establish our ties strongly with America and the UK, absolutely, and get our free trade deal agreements with those two nations, and move away from our integration with the CCP, really, and the way that they've kind of got their hooks into this country. So I really hope that that's what happens. And I mean, coming back to New Zealand elections, what can you say to people, around that, people who would like to see change?
I don't know. I don't think a lot of people realise what's going on. I think most of New Zealanders are apolitical, apathetic. They don't really care. As long as they've got, Christchurch, the Crusaders, Auckland, the Blues, the All Blacks, and drinking beer on the weekend, they really don't care. And this is it's a gift. It's a gift. People who don't care about politics and care what's going on, it's a gift to corrupt governments, because corrupt governments, this is what they want. They want people to be unaware of what they're doing. And like I say, it's a gift, because these people who are so apolitical, so ignorant of what's going on, they come to, like Winston Peters, for instance, now he's doing the rounds again, telling people about this, that and the other, making the same old promises, and people see it and they vote for him, because they don't know what he did only a couple of years ago with the Global Compact. And I think apathy's it's a terrible thing. The more people are aware of politics and what politicians are doing, I think the richer the nation will become. And it makes great conversation as well. I know, don't talk about religion and politics, but the more you talk about it, the more aware you become of what's happening, and you will vote accordingly. You will understand what you're voting for. And
and I mean, that just brings me to what you guys have been doing in Christchurch since the first lockdown. Because I got involved with the anti-lockdown protests here in Auckland during the first round of lockdowns as well, because this movement has been going for a while. Yes, it's grown in the last few weeks here in Auckland, but you guys, Christchurch has been holding it down. You guys have really built up a good audience there in the square every week, talking about the issues and trying to engage the general population. So, I mean, all I can do really is just encourage everybody who is down in Christchurch to go down and check out what Lee's saying down there and all the other freedom fighters down there, because it's not about parties anymore, really. It's about the ideas, right? It's not about particular individuals of particular parties, but what does it mean to have freedom? What does it mean to have sovereignty? What does it mean to be an individual and be independent and not rely on big government to create an illusion of safety, especially when we've got, like you say, the COVID, which is, it really isn't the big kind of fatal disease that they've tried to tell us it was, with such small death rates and such a high recovery rate. But yeah, it's time to get involved, isn't it, for everybody?
It is. I mean, Christchurch, yeah, we go there every week. I mean, obviously I have work commitments, and I can't get there every week. But the others are there every week. Carl Bromley, big shout out there for Carl. His YouTube channel is, I'm trying to think of it now, Is It Just Me? That's Carl Bromley's YouTube channel. And you've got Kyle, and you've got Troy, and you've got many others, Adam, who do it every week. They're there every week religiously, and these people are fantastic at delivering a message, and we are committed to freedom and liberty. And come down to Christchurch, and there's no way we'll get numbers like Auckland got yesterday, because Auckland's a much bigger place than Christchurch. But come up from Dunedin, come up from Invercargill, come down from Nelson or whatever, just get to Christchurch or the West Coast and join in our movement, and let's have a proportional kind of response to what Auckland got yesterday in Christchurch, because we need to grow, and we need to send a message to this government that we do not comply, we do not agree with what you're doing, and we know what you're up to. But a big shout out there as well for Terry O'Pines, who turned up yesterday, another fantastic YouTuber, and Carol Saki, fantastic battler is Carol and Terry, and many others. But we should be helping each other out, and this movement that happened yesterday here in Auckland, and what's happening in Christchurch every week, Hamilton, Tauranga, Nelson, Invercargill, Dunedin, Greymouth, wherever, you should be doing it too. Get out there and get together, find like minds, and get out in the street, buy yourself a bullhorn and start shouting it out like we are. And at some stage we'll come and visit you, and we'll help you along, and we'll say our thing. We'll give speeches on the stage and things like that, and you can come down to Christchurch and do the same down in Christchurch. And if you're close to Auckland, get up to Auckland and do the same thing there. But it needs to be done. We have to send a message, and a message of unity, that we are against this globalisation. We are against this fear, this fear-mongering, and this global conspiracy. And it is a conspiracy, but it's real. Like I said yesterday, Abraham Lincoln was killed by a conspiracy, and so was JF Kennedy. They were both killed by conspiracies. It was real to them. And just organise yourselves in your towns and cities around New Zealand and Australia. Melbourne, I know it's hard. It's easy for me to say being here in New Zealand, but get out in Melbourne and protest. And because be peaceful as you have been, and if the police smash you over, which they probably will, more fool them, because it's going to come back at them at some stage. And after the Second World War, Nuremberg trials, it was no defence saying I was just following orders. It was no defence. So remember that, you police officers that are smashing people, innocent people on a power trip, what just may one day come back to bite you.
Great, well that's probably a good place to leave it. Yep. Encouraging everybody to get out there and stand for their freedom, stand for their rights, because it is God-given, and if you don't fight for it, well, they'll just continue to take it off us. So thanks so much for joining me today, Lee. It's been great having you in Auckland. It was great having you yesterday. Your speech was amazing, and just wish you guys all the best down in Christchurch, and I hope to come down and visit you one day. Okay. So have a good day. Thanks.
Cheers. Thank you very much. See you later.